Hello everyone, I am Mandeep and today's topic of my video is about Ielts writing task 1 academic, that is diagram. But firstly, you should know that diagram can be of two types, that is natural process like water cycle or life cycle of any insect, and it can be a man-made process like chocolate making, brick manufacturing. It can be anything related to any man-made process. So in this video I will cover man-made process, that how to explain it, and the way it is explained is different from a natural process because the sequences that are used are a little different in the natural process, and the way of explaining is as well different. And here is a sample of a diagram, that is the diagram below shows how instant noodles are manufactured. That here in the diagram the complete process of manufacturing noodles is explained, and it is obviously a man-made process. So I will cover the points that are related to this diagram, that how to explain a man-made process effectively if you want to get really good bands. So the first important tip for band 9 is use passive tense. What is passive tense? When the object becomes the subject, and then you will use that is or are, because am will not be used in the man-made process, and then the third form of the verb is used, and means you have to explain everything in passive form, and it is present indefinite tense but in passive form. Like here is an example, that a large digger digs up the clay from the ground. Means here the subject is large digger, the verb is digs up, and the object is clay, and from the ground is extra information. So the passive tense is made when the object is the subject of the sentence, that the clay. So the sentence can be formed in a passive way. The clay used for manufacturing or making bricks is dug up from the ground by a large digger. Means you have to use passive form by using by. It is possible that in a sentence by is not used because it is not compulsory to specify any object that by whom it is done. So it depends on the diagram that what you are explaining. If the by something is explained, then you can write it. So here you have to use passive tense, like the clay used for making bricks is dug up from the ground by a large digger. The clay was the object that became the subject. Then you use the verb is, and the third form of the verb is dug up, and the rest is the extra information. And the next important tip is paraphrase appropriately. It is really important that whatever the introduction is given, like the sentence, you have to paraphrase it, and even throughout your task you have to explain it by using synonyms. So it is really important that you use the synonyms. Don't copy the sentence given in the question. Like manufacture, we can use the synonyms like produce, make. For building industry, construction companies. For mix, mixture, blend, compound, concoction. It is also mix or mixture of something. Producing electricity, we can write as generating power supply. So here are a few examples. It is really important that you use synonyms if you really want to get good bands, because paraphrasing is really essential. The next important tip is sequencers. Like I told you that sequencers are different for the both processes, for natural and man-made process. These can be used, but a little change need to be made. So here the sequencers, for starting step you can write to begin, first, firstly, first of all, in the first stage, or in the first step even you can write. And for the middle steps, then, after this or after that, next, afterwards, following this, in the next step or stage, in the subsequent step or stage, subsequently. There are a few other words like before, after, and followed by. These three words are used when you want to explain two points, like two steps in one sentence, to make a complex sentence. Like you have two steps to explain, then you can add them by using before, after, and followed by. I will explain it how to write. But how to explain the last step? Finally, lastly, in the last stage. So now I will tell you how to use before, after and followed by in a sentence. Like firstly, you have to use before. It can be used in the starting of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence. But when you have to use it in the starting, you have to explain second step before first step, because you have to mention that before doing this, you have to do this. Means what you have to do earlier is explained later. Like before adding the ingredients, water is boiled in a kettle. It is just an example. Means before adding the ingredients, water is boiled in a kettle. What you have to do before is you have to firstly put water in a kettle to boil it, and then you will add the ingredients. Means the first step is explained later in the sentence. But when you use before in the middle, you will use or you will explain first step before the word before, and then second step. Like water is boiled in a kettle before adding the ingredients. Means you firstly have to boil the water. Before doing, what you have to do is adding the ingredients. Next, for after. Like after can also be used in the starting or in the middle of the sentence. It is opposite of before. Like in before, when we use before, we have to explain second step before first step. But when we use after, we will explain first step, then second step. Like after adding water and oil to the mixture, a soft dough is formed. Means firstly you have to add water and oil to the mixture, then a dough will be formed. But if you have to use after in the middle, then it will be opposite. Like you firstly have to explain second step and then first step. Like a soft dough is formed after adding water and oil to the mixture. Means a dough will be formed, but it will be after the addition of the water and oil in the mixture. I hope you understand that how to explain the sentences or how to explain the steps in a sentence by making complex sentences using before and after. Last is followed by. It is only used in the middle. It can't be used in the starting. Like water and oil are added to the mixture followed by the formation of a soft dough. Means when we add the water and oil to the mixture, after that a soft dough will be formed. These are really good vocabulary words and good sequences if you want to make a complex sentence. Next, explaining purpose, that why that step is done. If you are explaining any step, you can add extra information by explaining why that step has been done. Like something is put outside under the sun, you can explain why. For drying, in order to dry, or you can make sentence depending upon the diagram. So for that you can use non-defining relative clauses starting with which, or you can use other words of academic writing like in order to, so as to ensure that, to make sure. And which is used to, where it is for non-defining relative clauses. Means you have to define why something is done. Next is, like here is an example that in a diagram there is a digger that digs the clay from the ground, and after that there is a roller, upon that there is a metal grid and the clay is put on that, and afterwards it goes on the roller. Then here in the diagram, why clay is put onto a metal grid, you can simply it is put on a metal grid, then a roller works, but that is a simple description. You can add that why clay is put onto a metal grid, there is a reason why it is put on a metal grid. You can write as the clay is placed onto metal grid which is used to break up the clay into smaller pieces. Means that is used here, the purpose is explained that it is used to break up the clay into smaller pieces. Like we have used the non-defining relative clauses which is used to, or other way of sentence, that is the clay is placed onto metal grid in order to break up the clay into smaller pieces. In order to means why it is done. Now I will make a video on that diagram. The diagram here I have given that the diagram below shows how instant noodles are manufactured, and I will make a full sample answer on that. And in my next video, and you will be able to understand how to explain a diagram or a process for to get a band 9. And if you want me to make a video on any topic, let me know by writing in the comment section. I will make a video on that. I hope you understand the important tips. If you like this video, do press the like button and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Here's a Facebook page that is Complete Success, and there's also a website ielts.completesuccess.in. Thank you.